Thanks again for everybody coming out today, and we're really excited to get the season kicked off. We've had I think a very productive 8 months, and from the off-season program to spring football, the players came to camp in great shape. Our strength numbers and our speed numbers were way up, and just camp was very productive. This is really a group that came out to work every day, and it's not a group that had to be prodded and pushed. I think we have a very motivated football team right now, and I really like our football team, and I think we're ready to get this thing kicked off. Idaho certainly presents some challenges. Coach is in his 5th year now, and has really made a lot of major improvements with the program. Obviously, there's some familiarity with them going back to the bowl game in '09, but this will be going to be a very good test. To get on the plane and fly out to Idaho and play in what is a hostile environment, I think is going to be a great experience for our players, and we're excited to get it kicked off. So if there's any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dave, could you start us out a little bit with the 2D? First, at the quarterback, it looks like you decided Shills over Hurley. What was the determinant that made that decision for you?
I think at the end of the day, John, that you can compare all the numbers and all the stats, and I guess at the end it comes down to a gut feeling over who gives your football team the best chance to win. This was a very, very hard decision. That I've been involved in a number of these quarterback decisions, that there's 2 guys competing, and this is one of the more difficult ones, and it was for good reasons. It's not that Matt hasn't played well, it's just Trent Hurley got so good so quickly. I mean, Trent from the fall to spring, and then he made another huge jump from the spring to camp, and it's a good problem. We really felt all through camp that we had 2 quarterbacks that were playing at a very high level, and we felt great about both of them. But at the end of the day, somebody has to take the first snap, and I just thought, right now Matt gives us the best chance to win, but that is not a knock on Trent. Trent Hurley's become a very good quarterback, and I've shared this many times. Last year in the conference, of the 13 teams in the conference, 10 of them had to play 2 quarterbacks. And probably the 5 teams with the best record, I believe, all played 2 quarterbacks. So we stressed all along that we weren't in a rush to make a decision. We really felt like we had to get 2 guys ready to play, and I feel so much better about where we are at that position right now than I did at this time a year ago. So Matt's going to start, but we're going to continue to rep Trent with the ones and give him good work, and I'm sure at some point we're going to need him to play.
Would you expect that you would see him in that first game? And I don't mean by injury, I mean more by design.
No, we're not going to predetermine. You make a decision like this, and it's tough and it's close, and when you make it, you don't want the guy you pick looking over his shoulder. We got to let Matt run things, and we're not going to say the 3rd series or the 4th series or the 2nd quarter. We're not going into this saying we're going to play 2. I'm just anticipating. History would certainly tell you, and hopefully we stay healthy the whole year. But we like Trent. He's a good player, and I'm sure at some point he's going to have an opportunity to play, and we have confidence that he'll play well.
Coach, another question on that. In spring and this fall camp, it's been about 50-50 probably with the reps with the one. So how do you see that changing now? Is it going to be 80-20, or do you have any set
probably
percentage?
like 60-40, 70-30, somewhere in that. And this is a good problem, that we have good depth at receiver. And a lot of the time with the quarterbacks, you're worried about getting the timing with the starting receivers. Our first and second receivers are all pretty good, and they're all going to play. So it wasn't like, when Matt was throwing to the 2s or Trent was throwing, there wasn't a huge drop-off. And the great thing is, I think part of the reasons our receivers have developed is that if you were running with the 1st and 2nd group, you were getting some pretty good footballs thrown your way. And and we're also excited about the freshman quarterbacks we brought in. I think Matt Johnson and Malik Stokes both have chances to be good players as well. So that's been a real positive. That I think, to develop the way you need to at receiver, those guys got to have good balls they can catch, and that clearly was a lot better than it was a year ago.
What were some of the other position battles that weighed on you in the same way the quarterback did?
Well, I think at receiver right now, we really feel good about the depth we have there. We probably have 6 or 7 playing at a level better than maybe number 4 did last year. So again, hopefully we can stay healthy, but the other benefit is special teams. There's a lot of those guys now we can involve on special teams because we have depth. We don't need guys to play 80 snaps or 75 snaps. Some of them will play 50 or 60, but there's a number of guys that can play 15, 20, 25 snaps and be very good and productive football players for us. So certainly receiver was a great battle. The tailback battle is still playing out. I mean, you have 4 listed, and Eric Geiger's a pretty good player too. So they both bring different things to the table. For 2 years it was Willie Jeter or bust. And a lot of our problems last year is that we did not have developed depth, and when we had the injuries hit, we fell off a cliff. And I feel in so many positions we're not there anymore. And again, that's just the numbers. I've talked about that a lot, but when you have over 80 scholarship players, you have better internal competition, you have better practices, and you have better depth going into a season. So the tailback thing is still playing out. And you can see any number of 5 guys out there, and if one of them gets the hot hand, we may roll with them, but I think any one of those guys could play meaningful snaps for us. And then we also have some good battles going on at linebacker. We have 4 linebackers I think play at a very high level. Dwayne Woods and Paul Swan, but DJ Lynch and Gabe Martin. All 4 of those guys will play. In our minds, we have 4 starting linebackers. And again, it gives us great flexibility that we can get those guys involved in special teams, and now you've got better players in your special teams pool. And then the secondary is still playing itself out too. I mean, you say what position in particular, it was every position. And it was great that we went out there every day, and when the ones went against the ones, it was good competition, and when the twos went against the twos, the level of football that those guys were playing is clearly the best that we've had here in 3 years.
Coach, what have you seen about Idaho? Obviously, they haven't played any games this season, but what sticks out about them as far as their strengths?
Well, I think they're a group that defensively, they have 7 starters back, 2 on D-line, 2 at linebacker, and 3 in the secondary. And they've improved every year on defense the last 3 years. They've cut down their yardage. It's a system that the players, now that he's in his 5th year, every player that's recruited there by coach has played in their system, learned their system. I think they're playing faster. The thing that I look at is the pressure they've gotten on the quarterback. I mean, they went from 10 sacks in 08, 15 in 09, and then last year they had 31 quarterback sacks. And that tells you that they're doing a good job recruiting defensive linemen, and they're covering kids a little bit better in the back end to allow the pressure to get there. And offensively, they're explosive. They have a great mix, and they've had a great balance on offense. They've had the same coordinator there since we played them in the bowl game. And they're a team that will try to pound you and really try to run the football. I think they lost a little bit of their balance a year ago. In 09, they had great balance. I think they were up around 450 yards a game and close to 300 passing and 150 rushing. Last year, they had some of the same issues we had in the O-line. They lost a lot of offensive linemen off the 09 team and struggled a little bit there, but now a lot of those guys are back for them, so they're maturing on the O-line, and they'll take some deep shots. They'll test you deep and see if you can make plays.
And this is a unique place to play, obviously, and it's obviously a long trip. Is that tough for a season opener to go out there, or is it?
Honestly, I prefer it more in an opener than you do halfway through the season. That we have a little bit more time to prepare for the game. We have a little bit more time on the back end because it's a Thursday game. So if you're going to take a trip like this, I prefer minute openers. Where you don't like trips like this is you have a Saturday game, a trip like this, and then a game the following Saturday. So in terms of taking a trip like this and playing a game like this to me is as good as it gets timing-wise. But it is an interesting place. I coached there in 1993 as an assistant coach, and it's a different venue, and it's certainly an advantage they have, playing in a dome. And we're going to get out there and work out before, and then we'll get a feel for it. And fortunately, we have an indoor facility here. So I think having the indoor here certainly helps us too.
Dave, what is it that makes the Kibbe Dome? I mean, is it the noise level or something different?
It's just the dimension, it's equivalent to, basketball, that, different basketball arenas and different basketball gyms, you have the different background. Sometimes the court is close and it's far, and just the nature of the Kibbe Dome, it's a Campbell soup can cut in half. And it's this thing that sits over ground, and the noise in there is different. There's a lot of different noise vibrations. And just the dimensions are different. The end zone doesn't go into a grass field. It backs up by the back of the end zone. There's a few yards, and there's not the stands. There's the exit to the building. So it goes right up to the wall. The goalposts hang down. There's not a goalpost that sticks out. So there's just some unique features it has. But when it's all said and done, the field will still be 120 yards and 53 across, and it's the same dimensions that we practice on every day.
Obviously, there's enough motivation as is, but considering a bowl game was just a few years ago, I mean, is there anything extra you sense from the players at all?
There's very few of our players anymore that were in that game. There's a handful of them, certainly Dwayne Woods and Chris Jones and Kevin. But in terms of our starting lineup, there's very few games that played in that game that are going to be starting for us. And, I always think, paybacks for a game 2 years ago, our motivation is that we want to be a good football team. Our motivation is we want to go out to Idaho and play well and find a way to win this football game. To rally the troops from the Humanitarian Bowl 2 years ago, that would be, I think, a rather weak platform to stand on. So, this team has a lot to prove. We were disappointed with how we played a year ago. From what I've seen, we've worked hard. I love our practice intensity. It's the best it's been since I've been here. And now we got to go out and play the games where they keep score and see how much better we've gotten.
Coach, can you talk about the relative youth of the starting defense, having 8 guys with 3 or more years of eligibility?
Yeah, we have some talent back there. I mean, it's, I don't want to be a broken record, but we saw this coming 2 years ago. That we knew we were going to get young in a hurry. I think we've recruited well. I think these guys have developed, and we feel we have good players, but when the ball's kicked off next Thursday, this is going to be the first time a lot of these guys have played in the game. But we have enough guys that have played. We've tried to simulate enough game-like situations. We've done more live periods and scrimmages. We kept the coaches out of it and let them play. And that's all you can do is create that environment as much as you can in practice so they're more ready for it in the game. But at the end of the day, the games are different. And we've tried to explain it, and I've tried to have the older guys talk to the younger guys about it, that when it's for real and it's kicked off and it's a game, the speed of it, the tempo of it's different, and you got to get yourself ready. And that's why we have to treat practice like it's a game. Because if we don't, we're not going to be prepared. But they're good players. And good players learn quickly, and it'll be baptism by fire, but we think they're ready.
Guys got anything else?
We were talking about the defense in particular with that question, but if I added the numbers of 81 of the 106 players on the roster are freshmen or sophomores, and 34 of them show up on your 2D. I know you're optimistic that they're good players and you put them into it, but is that a nice, it's a nice number when you look for the next 3 years down the road. Is it something that scares you a little bit now?
I mean, I like our football team, and I've made an impression or talked to our seniors that, they are responsible to help get those younger guys ready. They're responsible to get them in there and watch the extra film when we can't make it mandatory. And if the older players in our program want to have a successful season, they're going to have to force those younger guys to grow up in a hurry. So, can you win and be successful with a younger football team? Yes, you can. In 2007, I had a team that I think we started 14, 15, or 16 freshmen and sophomores and won 11 games. And the advanced and came a game away from playing for a national championship. You know, is it ideal? No, certainly, you know, you prefer it those years when you're starting 18 juniors and seniors. But the roster, it is what it is. We like the guys we recruited. We're not playing freshmen and sophomores that we think are bad football players. We're playing younger guys that are good players. And everybody, at some point, Tyler Sheehan had to start his first game as a freshman. Freddie Barnes had to play his first game as a freshman. And, you know, if they're surrounded by enough good players and enough good leaders, you know, you can still be successful. So is that a challenge? Absolutely, it's a challenge. But it's the one we have, and we're going to embrace it, and we're excited about it.
John, did you still have something?
Yeah, I do. But if you have maybe that, because I might switch gears completely. Would you talk a little bit about the situation in Richmond? How familiar are you with the guy? You know the coach who's taken over now, right?
And I knew and both of those guys were on my staff. So it's, I'm good friends with both of them. You know, I certainly feel for Luttrell and his family. You know, he's a good person and a good coach who made a mistake, and he's paying dearly for it. And Wayne Lindenberg is an excellent football coach, and he'll do a really good job. And you know, those guys were on my staff I was worked with Luttrell for 4 years and Wayne 3 years, and I'm in constant touch with both of them. And you know, it's unfortunate.
Everybody set? Coach, thanks.
All right, thank you very much.